Recently, an American retailer was forced to end a decades-long return policy that allowed customers to send or bring back an article of clothing for an exchange or a full refund. They ended that policy because it said customers were abusing the privilege. And they're not alone. Stores are getting rid of the idea that if you're not satisfied, we'll give you your money back, no questions asked. But where did this idea come from in the first place? Well, like many American firsts, it came from right here in Philadelphia, or as I like to call it, America's first capital. If you think you know the answer, stay with us to find out if you're right. Well, long before the idea of satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, shopping at the corner store in the late 1700s and 1800s in America was pretty much what you'd expect, the Wild West. There were no fixed prices, there was no guarantee of quality, there was no truth in labeling, there was no money-back guarantee, and there was no such thing as a return policy. And then a Christian businessman named John Wanamaker came along and changed everything. It's one of the great, nearly forgotten American success stories. Jeff, when you hear the name John Wanamaker, what does it make you think? What comes to mind?
The organ.
Yeah.
Right? The pipe organ in the flagship store in Center City, Philadelphia, right near City Hall. I think that's what most people, when you say John Wanamaker.
Or the Eagle, right?
Or the Eagle.
Meet you at the Eagle.
That's
I wonder
right.
if the Philadelphia Eagle's name came from that eagle.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
But a lot of roads lead back to the Wanamaker store. And as you described, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is because you have here in Philadelphia the best example of what it means to be a Christian engaged in commerce, in business, in the public square. Today, it doesn't always mean the same thing. You know, when you say, well, I'm a Christian businessman, you think, well, that's kind of a hook for you, isn't it? That's kind of a hook. That's a way that you say that you're honest, you're transparent, you're trustworthy. But too many people have met too many so-called Christians and done business with them and realized that their name and their reputation do not match the advertisement.
Right. Well, it's easy to have the label, I suppose. You know, anybody can, I mean, if you go to church and you're baptized or whatever, you can say to yourself, well, I'm a Christian.
I'm Christian.
I'm Christian. And then, and then if you're thinking in a very worldly, in a carnal sense, worldly sense, say, well, I could probably get more customers if I, especially in this day and age, if I say, I'm a Christian a business person, because then people say, oh, let's go to that store, and patronize somebody who's a believer. But John Wanamaker was a different kind of guy.
Really different.
Here's a guy that, I think Christian meant something to him.
Yeah. So I was in Harrisburg in the basement of a bookstore called the Midtown Scholar, and they have a rare books, kind of old section in the basement, and I found this book. And it's called The Golden Book of Wanamaker Stores, and it was published in 1911. And it was kind of the store up until this point, kind of what have we learned? And Wanamaker puts this beautiful book out of gold leaf and all that inside, maps, all kinds of stuff. And really what he did is he laid out what it meant to have his faith inform his retail. Meaning his approach to retail, his approach to buying and selling, and what that meant. So when you say Wanamaker wasn't just an advertised Christian, it wasn't just a gimmick, a shtick for him, if you will, it really was about this man leading with his principles. And what it did was change all of American retailing. Yeah. He took the best of what was working and growing big retail stores around the country, and then he said, what if you applied some truth and honesty and virtue into how you did it?
Yeah, that's the part that's amazing to me. I mean, most people, I would think that this would be an interesting story for a lot of people who, in a worldly sense, would like to be successful. Yeah. Success meaning, you make a lot of money. From that standpoint, John Wanamaker's life was easily successful. I mean, when he died, he was worth $100 million. Imagine that in the 1930s.
What would that be today, if you?
1.8 billion is the today calculated
from
value.
Buying and selling quality goods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from being principled about it.
That's right.
I mean, before unions were started, his store wasn't unionized, but he still had all these wonderful benefits for his employees, because at the end of the day, you really are supposed to love your neighbor like you love yourself. And if you do that, then you're thinking about other people all the time. You're not just thinking about yourself, like, what can I get?
Yep.
How can I help myself? You're thinking about, what can I do? So you have people that work for you, and you're providing them with all kinds of services that they otherwise wouldn't get because you love them.
Now, look, there are plenty of retailers in America or stores in general who are doing good things, right? They're providing a gym at the office. They're providing free parking. There's a coffee shop on the third floor. There are amenities. Or you look at some of these companies like Google or Apple that are providing experiences. But there's always a reason, right? The reason is to keep them there longer, to work longer hours, or to forget you're at work altogether. Wanamaker's idea about providing these amenities for his workers was very different, because he believed that they were made in the image of God and deserved respect, and the store was the place, kind of the college of self-improvement. He wanted somebody to become in like him, to come in off the street, be able to get a good job, but then grow. And think about it, you're growing somebody who has now exportable skills, who could now leave your store, but they stayed with him.
Yeah. Imagine that, you do the right thing, and instead of, most people say, well, if I do the right thing, I'm going to create competition for myself that I don't want. Because
Right.
one of these people is going to go out and start a store and use all this stuff and end up, being my biggest competitor.
Yeah.
But, here's a guy who did the right thing, and it made people want to stay.
Big time. Yeah, big time.
It's a blessing. So he had these guarantees. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, so I mean, just think about this. I mean, this is a time when people weren't, it's the wild, wild west here, and people are just trying to make a buck. And here you have this Christian guy who's providing guarantees to people.
So Joe Watkins comes in, and he gets, before the land before Wanamaker, Joe Watkins walks in, and he gets a certain price. Jeff Coleman walks in, he gets a price. Jeff's wife comes in, she gets a different price. It really depends on what the retailer thought he could get out of that person.
Right.
Well, that's just fair. It's the free market. It's commerce. So there's no pricing. There's no labeling. There's nothing that says that you have to require that what you're getting on the label is what you'll get when you open up the package back home. Yeah. Wanamaker comes in and says, why don't we guarantee it? Yeah. Why don't we guarantee the quality? So he had 4 guarantees.
All right, so the guarantees are, the prices of our goods shall be as low as the same quality of the product as sold anywhere in the United States.
Right.
That's...
So if you can find this product comparable. So if it's cashmere, it's cashmere. If it's wool, it's wool. Same scarf, same product, and you can find it somewhere else, we'll guarantee that product. Well, you know what that did to Philadelphia retailers? They go, we're going to lose our shirt. The businesses that he was competing against were really angry, because now you have somebody that is guaranteeing the quality of the work.
Yeah.
What a change. Yeah,
Right.
What a change.
Second guarantee, prices are the same for everybody.
Yeah.
For the same quality on the day of purchase.
So we take that for granted, right? We assume that if we all click on Amazon at the same time, we're all going to get the same price. Well, that's not always the case, is it, with Amazon or online retailers? The algorithm, in many ways, determines whether you get a discount. If you know about that printable coupon before you go into the retailer, you're special. So what retailers today are doing is they're making it kind of a special experience for you to get the discount, when really all they're doing is getting you down to the price point where it's probably fair.
Right.
So if it costs them 13 cents to manufacture that product, they've got a wide latitude of how they can inflate the price, right? And then discount it. Wanamaker said, we're going to make these prices much more honest and much more transparent. We're all going to get the same price. And he's not going to price gouge in the process.
Now, it's interesting, I had this experience the other day where my wife and I went to a local store, a local market that we hadn't been to before. And in the store it had all the goods that you normally see in stores. But it was a small mom and pop, and there were no prices on any of the things. And so I wanted to get some more water, and I saw they didn't have the gallon things of water, but they had a 6-pack of maybe quart bottles of water,
right.
Plastic bottles of water. And so I picked out one of those, and the only mistake I made was I go to many places wearing a jacket and tie. And so I went to the front and I said, I'd like to buy these. How much does this cost? And he,
For you?
Yeah, exactly. So he turns. There's no price on it anywhere. He turns and to a woman who's off, who I can't see, but who maybe owns a store. He says, "How much for this?" And I see she peeks out around the thing, sees me, and then she says, $22.
Wow.
$22.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. So I said, okay. Well, I said to myself, well, you know, I need the water. And that's a bit pricey, but you know these stores need to survive also.
Right.
I know they can't compete with the supermarkets and other stores, and so you know maybe I won't argue with that price. But it was a price for me because I was wearing a jacket and a tie, and not a price for anybody else. And that's what was commonplace.
That's exactly it. And I think Wanamaker also knew that as an entrepreneur, that he and his business partner might be on a bad day when he had to make payroll, tempted to inflate the prices across the board. We've got to bring more in. We've got to give the appearance that we're successful today. But locking in a price and a price guarantee is actually an accountability for both people.
Right.
So it keeps you from doing what in many developing nations, you're living in the Philippines, going to the market. You didn't know what you were going to pay for a papaya.
Right.
So mom had to be really good and know when to pull the plug and say, okay, I agree to that price because you're bartering. This system was revolutionary and it was all rooted in a Christian principle.
Wow, what an amazing. Guarantee 3, the quality of the goods is as represented on printed labels.
Can you imagine that? Right? There was no government agency at that time that was saying essentially truth in advertising. People could make all kinds of claims. So you think about the Wild West and you think about the wagon pulling up and the guy getting up, step right up, pull the curtains back, and the Watkins elixir, you know, will cure everything,
anything.
all of it. And what Wanamaker is doing here essentially is saying that we know the sourcing of these goods. What is the pressure point today when you go into a coffee shop, for example? They're selling because there's pressure, market pressure, saying that a lot of these coffees are maybe using unfair labor practices or essentially slave labor around the world. So we guarantee the sourcing of this coffee that we're going to serve. It's fair trade. The farmer's going to get a fair price. That's only because of an article in a paper, because reporters were out doing exposés. He voluntarily said at the beginning, the quality of the goods is as represented on printed labels. We're going to tell you where we're sourcing it from. We're going to make a connection between the sweater, the shoes, the brooch, the hat, everything in our stores, and we're going to make sure that it's exactly what it says. That's revolutionary because retailers did not have to do it. The brown paper bag and the twine that held your package together when you got home, that was it. And there was nothing you could do about it as a consumer.
Yeah, that's why I was so successful.
John Wanamaker.
Yeah. What a man. Guarantee 4, the full amount of cash will be refunded if the customers find the articles unsatisfactory and return them unworn or uninjured within 10 days of purchase. 10 days.
10 days. So that was enough time for your carriage to get you home, to find out if it fit, if it didn't fit, if it wasn't right, and you could bring it back. This was not happening in American retail. I mean, we're talking about, the country has been alive for a long time. Shops have been open for a long time. People in the mercantile businesses were operating under the premise that, hey, you buy it, it's yours.
Right.
You know, we hear, well, you break it, you bought it. No, this is if you buy it, that's it. When you walk out that door and the money has been exchanged, there is no option for you. There's no lemon law. There's nothing that says that you have the right to exchange. Wanamaker said that part of this guarantee was that you are going to be refunded in full if you're not satisfied with the product. That principle alone, now he may have been one of 2 or 3 retailers around the country who were doing that. He really invented this notion of a department store. But there was nobody who really popularized this idea of a money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied, or bring it in. So that changed the whole marketplace. If you're the big guy in Philadelphia, we have an image of the store, the big screen, and if you go into a Wanamaker store, imagine that. All of those other stores in the neighborhood now have to change their policies or go out of business.
Yeah.
They were mad.
Yeah, who could compete with that? I mean, the size of the store and the quality of the goods, and then the guarantees.
That's it. Wanamaker said, though, if we do it right, if we all do it right, we'll all be successful. The argument against Wanamaker was he's such a big store, he's going to eat all of us up, because he was the biggest department store, the biggest of its kind really in the world at the time. And people said, you're going to put all these people out of business. He said, no, if you do it right, the little store is going to become a big store. And that's what always happens.
Yeah. Doing the right thing. It's hard for human beings to do the right thing. I mean, we're so corrupted by our interest in making money.
Yeah.
That oftentimes we find a way to make an excuse for the interest in making money.
They messed up, right? They should have checked.
Right.
They should have looked at the label.
Right.
They should have tried it on.
Right. Your problem, not mine.
That's right.
You bought it.
Yeah.
But
the Christian principles applied to retail actually don't just make it about profit.
Yeah.
They now say, look, we care about the customer, we care about the customer's well-being, the experience. If you go into the Wanamaker stores in the early 1900s, what you're experiencing is a palace of art, of architecture, of relaxation. He wanted people to come into that store as a stopping place to be able to do meetings, meet your friends. It was almost like the mall idea, but it wasn't the same way that people think about it today, which is let's just keep people moving.
Yeah.
Sit there for a few minutes and then get back into a store. Or the casinos where they take the clocks out so you stay longer, right? Wanamaker said, because we love and respect and honor our customers, if we do a good service to them out of what we believe is right, they'll reward us, we'll be in business, rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah. So he not only loved the customer, but he ended up he's loving the employees too, because a lot of people love the customers at the expense of employees.
Yeah.
So the employees are miserable and are treated poorly, even if the products are excellent. But here it is, you've got excellent quality of products. You've got these guarantees which are second to none in that day and age. I mean, he's guaranteeing the customer, saying, I want you to trust me because here's what I'm guaranteeing you. And he held by those guarantees. But then the people who work for him, he's providing them with all these wonderful benefits that they get. This is in a time before there were laws.
Places to exercise, libraries, education, classes for self-improvement. The thought today is, if I'm a CEO of a company and I'm going to invest in my employees, if I don't really believe, if there's no trust there, they're going to take that education and leave. So I'm not going to invest in these programs. But I know a Christian CEO right now is doing that, helping his employees improve. And what's happening? They're staying for 20 and 30 and 40 years because they've found, to a person that I talked to in that company, it's a family. I want to be here because he depends on me, she depends on me. But if it's just about how much money are you making and clocking in and clocking out, I'll take my skills I learned here and I'll go next door because they're going to pay me more. Not in the Wanamaker model. And we're almost back now, I think, Joe, to the period before 1861, before he went into business, where we've come full circle. We've tried doing retail governed by Christian principles. We're now lifting those principles, and now it's every person for themselves, and we're not happy. Yes, the package might be able to arrive by drone. We get our detergent the next day with Amazon deliveries or whatever other service we have, but we're not happier, and we're not enjoying the experience.
Yeah. When we return, we'll explore what Mr. Wanamaker called the 7 lamps. The principles of retailing, he said, were based on the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule. Can you imagine if this was the story of American retailers today? Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching Joe Watkins' State of Independence on Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Share your comments about today's program in the comment box at joewatkins.org.
Well, our great producer Jeff Coleman and I have been talking about the Philadelphia name and reputation of a Christian businessman named John Wanamaker. His innovations transformed American retail in the late 1800s, deep into the 20th century. Today you can see Mr. Wanamaker's flagship store in Center City, Philadelphia. His life and legacy went beyond giving customers exactly what they wanted. Jeff, John Wanamaker once said, the store will be my pulpit, and they are part and parcel of each other. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, the store, as his pulpit, this is the place where people can examine what does it mean to be a follower of Christ. So, yeah, he was a Sunday school superintendent, had 4,500 students at the peak of his Sunday school movement every week. He built the YMCA, was the first secretary of the YMCA in Philadelphia. So he had all of these kind of official Christian things, right? People would expect to see John Wanamaker in the pew at his Presbyterian church on Sunday. What they may not see from a person of his stature, a billionaire of his time, the richest retailer in the country, is that his store would be his temple and church.
Yeah.
He viewed that same structure as a sacred place, the transactions that happened there. So there was the idea of elevating the status of a store from just convenience and cheapness. Those are the two things that we look for today. Is it cheap? Is it convenient? Can I get the look for less? Right? Can I get those shoes for the cheapest possible? Will they hold up for a year or two? He was interested in something much deeper, which is the stores were a reflection of what it meant for him to be a Christian.
I think he realized what many of us don't always see, which is that it's, anybody can say that they're a believer in Jesus. Anybody can say that,
Yeah.
and lots of people do. But what you really believe and who you really are in Christ is demonstrated by what you do every day.
That's right.
By how you conduct yourself when nobody's watching, or when people are watching and you aren't aware that they're watching.
Does it make a difference that a Christian moved next door? Does it change the way our interactions, where we park, how we park? Is it not, the thought is, well, Christians are moving in next door. I better stop this, right? I better not smoke on my back porch. I better drive a little more carefully because, they might have a better connection with God. This is not at all, this wasn't a pious, going to make you feel little and small and I'm a good person. That wasn't at all what John Wanamaker was communicating.
Yeah, it was real. Yeah, and I think, these 7 lamps are very interesting.
Kind of a cool way to talk about ideas.
I think it's incredibly cool because I don't know, who do you know in business today? Who do you know that's the equivalent of a John Wanamaker? Here's a guy who was a billionaire, and
I'm thinking of some right now, many, who are on the Forbes, the top list.
Right.
They're not writing books about how their principles, Christian or otherwise, are informing what they do.
Right.
They're writing books about how to do what I did.
Correct.
Right? How to make the transactions that I did so you can have a lot of money too.
Right.
But he told people you're not going to be happy with money.
Right. Yeah, because you can't take it with you.
That's right.
And so you want God to be pleased with your life, not just human beings. And what pleases God is that you love Him back and that you love the people around you like you love yourself.
That's it.
Here's a guy that puts it into a book and these principles. And so you've got this. The first lamp is, he's got 7 lamps that he talks about. The first lamp is the lamp of truth.
Oh, this is cool. Every one of his advertisements had to meet a certain standard of veracity, truth. Now, maybe you saw the Wanamaker stores at the end of the greatness, right? John Wanamaker stores don't exist as John Wanamaker stores anymore. But over the statements of a salesperson and anything that was printed in the newspaper had to be 100% accurate. The lamp of truth. Yeah.
The second is the lamp of justice.
So this was the notion of the fair price. That the fair price, when you get goods, clothing, whatever department in the department store that you went to, perfume, whatever, that it had to be a good value and a quality value.
So customers aren't suckers.
That's right.
Words. You're not a sucker. It's like, yeah, I got another one.
That's right.
This is, the lamp of justice, the lamp of courtesy.
So the notion of being polite and careful with your customers' interaction at all times. courtesy, to be courteous. When you're training people now to work in a retail environment, you're almost treating them, telling them how to be defensive, how to protect your job and to protect this store. Don't give the customer an inch, because that could be a lawsuit.
Right.
Wanamaker said, we're going to have courtesy underlie all of it.
Wow. So that's another way of loving people like you love yourself.
That's right.
How would you want to be treated when you came into the store?
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you want to feel?
Right.
Yep.
Right. The lamp of faith.
So this is cool. Keeping that faith with the public, which gives the public unbounded faith in the store, its goods, its prices, its statements, and its service. We says, we're going to create the gold standard. I'm going to write about it. People are going to read about it. It better hold up.
Yeah. The lamp of initiative.
Well, this is the notion that we're going to do things at our store that nobody else has done. So this is a guy who put giant 20-foot balloons and flew them all over the city.
He was the first guy to do this kind of marketing. Is like way ahead of everybody else.
If you get this balloon, when the balloon lands, and if you get the package on it, you get a full suit of clothes. And there was a famous story in the Philadelphia papers that somebody thought it was an elephant stuck in a tree, and that got to be front page news. So it worked any way you looked at it.
The lamp of education.
So this was cool. This is how he phrased it: the training of our boys and girls, of our business family, of ourselves, and the education of the public in merchandise. So we're going to help consumers understand and recognize what better quality is, where their products are coming from. So the way that he redesigned that beautiful store, which is still sitting there in Center City, Philadelphia, was the countertop was the place where you would go, inspect the fabric, touch, inspect, look, hold it up, see if it was credible or not. That is revolutionary.
Wow. And the lamp of cooperation.
Well, that was that the business owners, the employees, the advertisers, everybody really had to work together as a single team, as a single family. There's so much more here. We'll have to come back to this topic.
Wow, what amazing. Well, tonight we did something a little different, talking about the almost forgotten legacy of the man who once had the largest department store in the world. In fact, he virtually invented the customer is king kind of shopping experience that lasted deep into the 20th century. If you work in retail as a clerk or manager, I hope you see the importance of every interaction with the people you encounter. Wherever God has placed you, at the front of the store, stocking shelves, or the overnight shift, or working in the warehouse, you and your work matter. I think John Wanamaker would say that everything, every job, every transaction, every person matters to him. Please let me know how this program helped you tonight with a note in the comment box at joewatkins.org. When you write, our team is always encouraged. For Jeff Coleman and the entire team here at Lighthouse TV, thanks for being with us tonight. From America's first capital, Philadelphia, I'm Joe Watkins. Thanks so much for watching. God willing, I'll see you next week. I just love the fact that most people are like thinking of godly principles to benefit themselves.
Yeah, this'll work.
Right, exactly.
Right.